Hello everybody! Today we'll be taking a detailed look at Bill and Ben from the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends universe. Bill and Ben are twin 040 saddle tank steam engines. A saddle tank engine has its water tank draped over the boiler, which resembles a saddle on a horse, hence the term saddle tank. Bill and Ben are owned by and work for the Sodor China Clay Company. They also perform shunting work for the Brendam Docks and have a history of working at the Center Island Quarry with Mavis. Personality-wise, they're mischievous jokers, but can be depended on in an emergency. Like all locomotives in the Thomas and Friends universe, Bill and Ben are inspired by real locomotives. They're based off the Bagnall 040 ST locomotives Judy and Alfred. Judy was built in 1937, and Alfred was built in 1953. Both of these locomotives are essentially the same design, but because Alfred was built 16 years after Judy, there are some small differences. Both locomotives were built for use at the Par Docks in Cornwall in the United Kingdom. The visually interesting thing about these locomotives is their low cabs, resulting in overall lower height of the locomotive in general, only 90 inches or 7.5 feet. The unique dimensions of these locomotives allow them to negotiate tight corners and a particularly low bridge. Judy was withdrawn from service in 1969 due to maintenance costs, and Alfred was withdrawn in 1977. The latest report I can find on these two locomotives is that Judy was overhauled and re-entered service on the Bodmin and Wenford Railway, and Alfred is owned by the Cornish Steam Locomotive Preservation Society and awaiting overhaul at Bodmin Parkway on the Bodmin and Wenford Railway. Alright, let's take a closer look at Bill and Ben. Because Bill and Ben are twins, we'll just take a look at one of them in detail. But while we've got them side by side, let's give them a turn. So while we've got them both facing forward, let's just point out the differences in their faces. First of all, the eyebrows are slightly different between the two. These ones are kind of arched over, these ones are a little bit flatter. There's a slight difference in the eyes. These eyes here are a little rounder. And then there is a slight difference in the smile as well. But otherwise they look pretty much the same, just different expressions. Alright, now that we've given them a spin together, let's take a look at one in detail. Okay, we've selected Bill here to do our detailed look. Bill and Ben are about 4.5 inches long from coupler tip to coupler tip, and it's the hook and loop couplers as you typically see here. We get some red trim on the running platform here that extends out to the buffers, and then the buffer pads there are in black plastic. As we move forward, the predominant feature here is the paint scheme, which is a yellow with some red trim pinstriping there. And that goes around some of the cab feature and then kind of wraps around the saddle on the saddle tank, and then the utility box, and then the piston down here. There's some brown features here at the cab, presumably that's wood. Maybe in real life. And then there's a little step up here in the black kind of underframe here. Saddle tanks only come down partially across the border, at least on this particular style it does. So what this makes it easier to do is perform maintenance on the boiler, as opposed to like a side tank engine that would really kind of cover that up, because those tanks would be sitting right on the running platform. So that's why you can see some of the boiler under here. As far as the linkage goes, this is kind of nice looking linkage here. We've got the piston here with like a few different connecting rods or arms here. They extend back to the wheel and then they move forward on the other wheel, which is kind of an interesting configuration. So that should be pretty cool to look at when we take them for a run. If we didn't mention it, Bill and Ben are 040 locomotives, which means they have no leading wheels. They've got 4, 2 on each side. Drive wheels, and then no trailing wheels. And then up front we got this nice big kind of flat bumper. You'll be able to see that better from the front, but you're looking at it in profile right here. Again, a couple of buffers, hook and loop coupler, and then a utility hook. Again, you'll see that more from the front. There's a utility hook in the back that I forgot to mention. And then on top, you've got the filler cap for the tank. You've got a steam dome here, and then you've got the chimney coming through the saddle tank there from the boiler. And interesting here, you've got a coal bunker in the front of the cab. So that's pretty cool, pretty unique. Bill and Ben are kind of unique locomotives, I think, in the Thomas the Tank Engine collection here on these Bachmann HOs. They're really fun to look at and run around the layout. And then set behind the saddle tank here, there's a little whistle feature back there as well. But yeah, good looking engine. Let's give it a turn. All right, looking from behind, like I said, we've got this really high kind of bumper feature here, painted in red. You know, the hook and loop coupler, the buffer pads there in black, and then the utility hook. And then this, what is presumably a open window here in the back. It's just black plastic here. And then these two kind of side pieces here that are brown. I would presume that those would be made out of wood. You know, that might be kind of a wood cab. So, but represented in brown plastic here. And then we've got a fairly flat roof. It's a slight arch to it, but it's a gray painted roof. And that roof is low on purpose, as we described on those, you know, the Inspiration locomotives there. They were built low so that they could negotiate turns and also pass under a low clearance bridge where they worked, so, or where they shunted, I guess. But yeah, so again, there's a look at the back. Not a ton of detail, but there's a lot of color contrasting going on back there, so it is pretty interesting to look at. So let's continue our turn. Okay, and on this side here, again, the same detail as the opposite side, so I won't get into it too much here. There's not much to add. You know, the sides of the running platform are trimmed out in red paint here. The top surface is gray. So, yeah, still the paint job continues around. Oh, there's this on both sides of the saddle tank. There's this, like, silver, what would we presume to be some kind of piping there up on top of the saddle. And on Bill and Ben, on either side of the saddle tank, on both locomotives, there's the name placard here. This is Bill. It says Bill on the other side, and then Ben the same thing. Ben on both sides. Now, I'm not sure if you can see it here. We'll try to point it out when we hold the locomotive in its top view to the camera. But it's kind of yellow on yellow. Well, it's not kind of. It is yellow on yellow here. SCC is printed on the side of the tank. So that would be the Sodor China Clay Company, and that is abbreviated down to SCC on the side of the tank. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure if you can see it. It's very subtle, but we'll try to point that out and make sure that you can get a view of that when we kind of hold it closer to the camera during the top view. But yeah, pretty nice, like I said, nice looking engine. Let's give it a turn. All right, looking at the front again, this like really tall bumper, nice unique feature there. Buffers, hook and loop coupler, and a utility hook there. You got the gray of the running platform there right up front, and then of course Bill's face. And as we say in all these videos here, the eyes on these Bachmann HO scale Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends Universe models, they traverse back and forth when they're running on the layout, so you'll see that a little bit later. And you can see kind of the black of the boiler here under the saddle tank, and you can see the saddle tank just like a horse saddle over the tank, and it just kind of comes to about the midpoint of the boiler there. So it's a pretty unique design. I think the saddle tanks are pretty cool. And then as you look straight ahead, you can see these kind of shaped windows here. They would be rectangular windows in the cab, except on one corner, they're kind of semicircular there to kind of fit around follow the contours of the saddle tank. And then you can see the front trim on the cab in the red paint, and you might be able to see the coal bunker there up front. Yeah, very cool. So let's bring it around. All right, let's take a look at the top and the bottom. So looking from the top here, you know, the big features up here right up front are the gray roof of the cab. Like I said, looking at that from the other angles, you can see that's kind of almost like a flattish roof, probably the flattest of the roofs that we see on these models here. The coal bunker right up front there, kind of a cool configuration there, and you can see the train whistle feature right behind the tank right there. And then the top features, the chimney, the water filling port here for the tank, and then some kind of a steam dome there. And then you can see the outline of the boxes down here on either side of the tank, down there near the front of the boiler. And then you can see a good look at the top of the running deck here in gray. There's a couple of raised features here on that deck. And let's see if we can turn it so that we can see that SCC written on the, like right below the silver piping and above Bill, the Bill placard. You should be able to see SCC. And then in profile, you'll see the red bumper, hook and loop couplers, buffers, utility hook on both ends. All right, let's look at the bottom. Okay, looking at the bottom here, you can see there's 3 access screws here for the little engine compartment here, or the motor compartment. You can see the 4 wheels. These are metal wheels, metal linkage. And you get a good bottom view there of that, of those linkage arms there. The hook and loop coupler with that very delicate spring, and then there's a few smaller screws here if you need to replace those hook and loop couplers. And let's see if I can see if there's any other kind of access screws back there. There might be a couple of other smaller ones under here, right under the deck there. But yeah, got the Bachmann, as typical of these, you got the Bachmann company logo there stamped into the bottom of the plastic, a little part number in white there. We see that a lot on most of these models. And then the paint job, the striping doesn't continue around along the bottom of the piston, but the yellow paint does. So, yeah, just to give you a look at the bottom. All right, let's give it one final spin. And while we're here, we'll just give Ben his own solo spin. And there you have it, Bill and Ben from the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends universe. Now we'll take Bill and Ben out onto the layout where they'll be hauling some fully loaded troublesome trucks full of stone.